has a story. Stories have power. Hey, Brandon.
Hello.
They help us understand each other. This is Jessop's Journal. In this episode of Jessop's Journal, I'm with Brandon Mull. Brandon, time to sign in, please.
Great.
Brandon, we got to ask some warm-up questions for you here.
Sure.
Number one, do you like chocolate?
I do like chocolate.
Dark or milk?
Dark.
Okay. Sushi, yes or no?
Yep.
Favorite sushi place?
Oh, well, I went to a place in Seattle.
Yeah?
There's that documentary, Hero Dreams of Sushi.
Uh-huh.
And I went to this place in Seattle that was like one of his disciples, one of his students. And it was supposed to be extra good. And it kind of was. Like, it lived up to what it was supposed to be. Yeah.
What's the funkiest thing you've eaten?
Muktuk, which is whale blubber in Alaska.
Wow.
Some native Alaskans gave it to me. It's horrible. It tastes like you took a pocket knife and cut a piece off a tire and you're chewing on it.
Well, okay. I've had sea urchin, but yeah, okay. Tastes like kelp. Favorite season of the year?
Probably fall.
Okay. If you had to pick mountains or beach?
Yeah, beach, if I could pick.
Mm-hmm.
If I could have either.
Okay.
I grew up in Southern California.
Oh, really?
And so, yeah, like that's one of the things I most miss about being in Utah. Though I love the mountains, I do,
Mm-hmm.
but like the beach a little extra probably.
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually grew up in Southern California as well. So.
Did you? I'm Thousand Oaks.
Okay, Whittier, but I was,
Yeah.
more the hood, so it's like.
No, that's cool. My grandma was like Redondo Beach.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a little more like it was a cool area. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, to me, truth be told, if I could live at the beach in the winter and the mountains in the summer, there we go.
Yeah, no, you're right. I agree.
So I noticed you got a little ball there in the hand. Okay, what's the story?
Yeah, so I'm a fidgeter, just like a total fidgeter, and kind of a kinetic learner,
Okay.
or a kinetic thinker is sort of what I say.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I just like to be popping bubble wrap, or I almost often, if you check me, I'll have a bouncy ball in my pocket or something in my hand. I'm also the kind of guy where if I walk into the movie theater with the keys in my hand,
Uh-huh.
I'll walk out with the keys still in my hand. Like I'll
Okay.
forget to pocket them. I just like having
Okay.
something in my hand.
Okay, well, see, then, you have the checklist of making sure you get everything, at the beginning and the end of the day.
Well, it almost happens organically. Yeah, it's not super deliberate. It's just a quirk.
Yeah. Well, you're a quirky guy, and
Yeah.
you got a kind of a quirky I guess we'd call it a job.
Yeah.
So, for people that don't know, what do you do?
So I write fantasy adventure novels. Probably my best known series is a series called Fable Haven, which is about a brother and sister whose grandparents are the caretakers of a secret wildlife park for magical creatures. That's a 5-book series. It's got a sequel series called Dragon Watch, which is the same main characters. All these adventures happening kind of like endangered species. There's magical creatures hidden around our world on these wildlife preserves.
How did you get these kind of characters? Because, was it as a kid, or what inspired this?
So the initial inspiration goes back to probably Narnia. When I was a kid, I didn't like to read a thick book. and when I finally read Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, it showed me that reading could be fun.
Mm-hmm.
The big imagination of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was really appealing to me, and I started living those kind of adventures in my head and reading those kind of books. And it led to this storytelling engine in my mind that just kind of kept getting stronger over the years.
How in the world did you come up with the ideas?
The ideas are a mix of observation and daydreaming. I just kind of pay attention to the world around me, and the way my head works, I ask lots of what-if questions. What if this happened? What if that happened?
Mm-hmm.
I like the supernatural. I like fantasy. And so when I daydream, I start putting giants into the whatever I'm seeing,
Yeah.
or monsters or witches, and that every now and then, a lot of the stuff I daydream about is really dumb, and like stuff I wouldn't want to share, like just because it's dumb, right?
Yeah.
But every now and then I stumble into something that becomes like a playground in my head, and that becomes what I share.
What were you doing before you were doing this writing stuff?
I went to school. I studied PR at BYU here in Utah,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't really love it. What I wanted to do was write novels, and I was really worried that it wasn't practical, that it wouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I trained myself to do marketing writing, and
Okay.
worked writing marketing writing
Mm-hmm.
for about 5 years after school until I was able to get my first novel published. And pretty soon after that, I turned books into my day job.
Oh, but, so talking about jobs, what was your first paying job? I mean, you know, the one where you had to fill out a form.
Yeah, I was a chicken stacker.
Chicken stacker?
Yeah, I was hired by Tyson's Frozen Chickens to stack chickens when they had a big sale going on.
Serious?
Yeah, I'd go on site for the day and I'd just stack chickens.
And where was this?
That was in Southern California.
Oh, okay. So don't say train, plane, or automobile, but how in the world did you get to Utah?
I came to Utah for school, for BYU. That's
Yeah.
what got me up here. Met a girl and stuck around.
Yeah, I hear that. I gotcha. Family, kids?
I have 4 kids. Sadie, Chase, Rose, and Calvin, 16, 13, 11, 9.
So what do they think about having a dad that writes these kind of books?
My kids really like the books, and they think it's fun that I write them. A cool thing is I think all my kids have read all my books. My oldest especially was just rabid about Fable Haven, read all those. And it's a cool way that we bond because we all like the stories, and they all think it's fun to write them. A lot of their friends like the books. And so, you know, it's hard to get any cool points with your kids.
Yeah, no kidding.
And so it's a huge relief that the kids, you know, they think it's fun. In fact, even like if you looked up my book trailer, my most recent like kind of book advertisement online, my son and my daughter play Kendra and Seth in a video trailer. And they did a pretty good job. Yeah,
there
so
you go.
It's fun. Like they're involved in all sorts of weird ways. Or when we do launch parties, they perform with me and do stuff with me. And
Was there a point in time when you said, okay, this is my new job, that I am officially a writer?
I mean, like, I think I felt like I was officially a writer when I made my first sale.
Oh, okay.
When I sold my first professional book, I was like, oh, wow. I wanted to be a writer since high school. And I didn't know I wanted to be a writer, but ever since I was a little kid, I was a massive daydreamer. I just didn't know I could turn that into being a writer. I didn't connect the dots until I got a little older.
Yeah.
But by high school, I wanted to be a writer. And then I felt like I was a writer I probably felt most like a writer when I was able to quit my day job because I was making more money writing than I was at the day job. That helped me feel like I was really doing it.
That kind of sounds like the right mark.
And that was about 15 years ago. And so like that's been a huge relief that I've been able to stay a writer because it's not guaranteed you get to stay a writer, you know.
True,
good
good point.
At least to stay a professional writer.
Yeah. So what was your I don't know, everybody talks about a big break. Was there one of those for you?
Yeah, I mean, probably the big break was the first editor that really believed in me, a guy named Chris Schobinger at Shadow Mountain. He saw something I wrote. He thought I had potential to do successful work. He didn't publish the first thing I wrote, but the second thing I wrote was Fable Haven, and he published that.
So he turned you down for the first one.
Yep.
Got Fable Haven. And if I remember right, Fable Haven has some pretty cool little awards and, you know, some notoriety.
Yeah, Fable Haven's done really well. We've got millions of copies sold. It's in like 30 languages. They're all New York Times bestsellers. Some in the series, like Dragon Watch is the sequel series, and that book 2 came out and was a #1 New York Times bestseller. I've written, I think, 17 New York Times bestsellers now.
All right, very good.
Which is the bestseller thing is relevant because that's how you stay employed as a writer, is selling books. You know, like the royalty you get as a writer is fairly small for each individual book. So if you don't sell a lot, it's not your full-time job. It's a side job, and I'm lucky. It's been my full-time job for a bunch of years.
There's one kind of deep question that I like to ask people in this episode of Jessop's Journal is,
Sure.
Who believed in you before you believed in you?
You know, and as a writer, I don't think anybody did. I'm serious.
Yeah?
I don't think anybody did. No one believed in me before I believed in me as a writer.
Okay.
And so I have to go to as a person. And that was for sure my parents.
Yeah.
You know, like my mom and dad, they really, they raised me thinking I could do what I wanted to do, you know. And that, it's funny because they raised me that way. And then, but when I wanted to do writing, they were like, are you sure? You know what I mean? Because they were just trying to be good parents, and they knew that was like a kind of a high risk sort of thing to chase after. And but yeah, I also got some mentoring. A guy who gave me early mentoring in my career, who believed in me before most people believed in me, or who liked my stuff early, was Orson Scott Card, the guy that wrote Ender's Game. He read Fable Haven. He really liked it, and he gave me a lot of advice, a lot of mentoring. He helped me get my agent. He did all sorts of stuff that was above and beyond, just because out of the kindness of his heart and out of thinking I had some potential, I think.
what's the process in writing? I mean, do you have like an outline, or you just start writing and kind of go wherever? What's the deal?
Every writer does a little different. We sometimes say some writers are like gardeners, where it's like just plant a seed and see what grows, right? Give me an idea and let's see what grows out of this idea. Some writers are like architects who make an extensive plan and then execute the plan. I'm somewhere in between. I make a plan in my head. Some writers will outline stuff out or do a lot of pre-writing. My pre-writing is daydreaming. I kind of see a movie in my mind, and then I try to write that movie. Sometimes that movie in my mind will cook for years before I start it. I don't want to start it usually until I feel like I really have something, partly because I make a contract with the publisher and promise to deliver something of value.
Right.
And so I want to feel like there's something of value in my mind before I start.
How long with these contracts, and I realize it depends, but how long do they give you to actually get something done?
Not tons of time. Usually I've got under a year for each book. And often I'll make like a 5-book deal. Like I wrote a series called 5 Kingdoms, and I made a 5-book deal to write these 5 books. And then I had to, my talent had to cash that check, right?
Yeah.
Like I had to create something of value because they paid me pretty good money to write 5 books. And then I had to try to write 5 books that would make them happy. And if I failed to do that, I would not be able to get a good contract next time. But by consistently delivering a quality book, they have faith in you and they'll pay you a decent advance to do the next one.
I can tell that your kids mean a lot to you.
Yes.
What do you, when everything's said and done, and we're down, we're all gone.
Yeah.
What do you want your kids to remember, and what's the legacy that Brandon Mull wants to leave on this earth?
Oh, yeah. If you're talking about the real legacy, I want my kids to know I loved them. I want the people who knew me to know I loved them. And I want them to know that I know God's real and that he loves us and that we can know him. It takes a lot of personal effort, but we can know God and get help from him.
That sounds like it's a big part of your life.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing. Professionally, I hope that people have fun with the books. I hope it inspires people to write their own books. I hope people play games inside the story worlds I've made. I hope people share it as families. I see that happening, and that's professionally that's my goal. Maybe get kids reading, do that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, Brandon, thank you very much for coming on Jessop's Journal.
Yeah, thanks for talking to me.
Brandon, we've got some lovely party gifts for you from our underwriters. First off, Rustico, they make all my journals. They made you one personalized, very cool.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Lovely pen from Rustico. The thing writes itself, just saying, okay?
Awesome.
The folks from Taylor Cooperative, where we're taping here, they make all my custom shirts. They're gonna make a custom shirt just for you as well.
That is exciting, that'll be my first one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And then, I've been known to wear a hat or two. And so my hatter is JW Custom Hats. They're going to fit you and make you your very own custom hat as well.
Wow.
And then, of course, we've got the folks from Ogden's Own Distillery that have given you a little gift pack, and the folks from Life Never Boring as well. The thing I want people to remember is that stories have power. They help us understand each other.
I can get behind that.
With another entry into Jessop's Journal and Brandon Mull, I'm Doug Jessop, ABC4 News.